And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. Space, a Frontier. These are the voyages of the YouTube channel Smash-O-Mash. Our continuing mission to cover facts and talk about things like solar activity. So we've got some growth of this sunspot in the southern hemisphere. This group down here, a little bit of growth happening there. This one up in the north, I think it's 3085, is mostly stable over the past 24, and a new sunspot just rose up here. So you'll be able to see that in the colorized magnetogram. Right at the end, you see that little magnetic organization area showing up there. That actually is a sunspot. So sunspot number will rise a little bit today. And here's some composite imagery. If you're wondering what this is ultraviolet light. 3 different specific spectral wavelengths, 211 angstroms, 304 angstroms, and 171 angstroms. 211 and 171 are iron. 304 is helium. We've seen a volcanic uptick since yesterday. Some discolored water around the volcano islands from Kaitoku. So the Japan Coast Guard changed the alert level from yellow to white as there's an underwater seamount erupting there, the Kaitoku volcano. It may hint a result of submarine eruptions emitting volcanic ash and pumice or bubble outflow from the seafloor, as happened in July 2001. Krakatoa also erupting again, producing a 4,000-foot plume of volcanic ash as it explodes. Semeru, small eruption observed by pilot from Semeru. Taupo in New Zealand. So this is interesting. The intense seismic activity beneath the volcanic Lake Taupo continues. The earthquake swarm has been at 30 quakes per week, a steady level. And by the way, here's the distribution of those earthquakes. They're in 2 separate clusters, one under this peninsula and one under this area over here. That's what's going on Lake Taupo. Popocatépetl in central Mexico exploding. Unknown size of a volcanic ash plume. It has been spreading toward the northwest. Headed down to Central America to Fuego, Guatemala exploding, 15,000-foot ash plume. Down to Colombia and South America. Nevado del Ruiz exploding, 22,000-foot ash plume from Nevado del Ruiz. 20,000-foot ash plume in Ecuador from Sangay as it explodes. Revenador exploding, flight level 150. It's a 15,000-foot ash plume. And headed way down south to the land of Peru. Flight level 240 from explosive activity from Sabancaya. It's a 24,000-foot ash plume. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Largest earthquake of the past 24 was a 6.2 magnitude quake. There is a location of that off of the coast of Indonesia. And let's scroll up the list here. Significant uptick since yesterday. Some 5 magnitude quakes in places like the Pacific Antarctic Ridge. A 5.2 and a 5.4 there. A 5.0 near Indonesia. That is east of that 6 magnitude quake, and that 6.2 there came in at 1431 yesterday. Estimated depth 55.8 kilometers. Tonga seeing a 5.2. So significant volcanic uptick. And once again, folks, remember, any earthquake can be a foreshock. There's another 5.8 near the Antarctican plate boundary. There's an aftershock near Indonesia of a 5.1 magnitude. Some smaller quakes striking Hawaii once again. And some quakes around the Mediterranean Sea. They're both fairly minor. Like that 4.5 magnitude at Turkey. Headed back to space. This is 335 angstroms. Again, a new sunspot just rose up here in the northeast. We'll get to that in a moment. We've got a cosmic ray update coming. First, the radio flux now at 103 solar flux units. I think that's the same as yesterday. 103 solar flux units is the current state of the 10.7 centimeter radio flux, represented by this black line. That's your 1-year chart. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard not forecasting any geomagnetic unrest or geomagnetic storms in the coming days. I am expecting a coronal hole high-speed stream density wave to show up late in the day tomorrow on August 25th. And then a velocity increase and a density decrease by midday on the 26th, as we've got some additional coronal holes facing the Earth. Next, looking at Earth's geomagnetic moment, Earth's magnetic moment from space. This is depicting the last 4 hours. The scale is nanopascals magnetohydrodynamic pressure, and you can see the pressures here kind of low, as we've seen the solar wind speed drop down to sort of a background levels. So that's Earth's magnetic moment from space. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. The scale here, nanotesla magnetic flux density. And things are geomagnetically calm. Only minor changes to Earth's B field, otherwise known as geospace delta B. KP index here only at 1. Planetary K index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, and let's take a look at the real-time solar wind. The solar wind here dropping, now below 400 kilometers per second at 395 kilometers per second. Solar wind density, about 6 protons per cubic centimeter. Next, looking at some magnetic data. Here are your GOES 16 and GOES 17 magnetometers. Things pretty chill as far as those go. And Earth remains in a South Pole current sheet. Perhaps no changes coming soon at the moment. Keep in mind that data is nearly 2 hours old from when we streamed the video. Here's some more magnetic data, the line of sight field plot. And before we get into coronal holes, let's talk about cosmic rays. Yes, cosmic rays. High-speed particles coming from perhaps outside the solar system, perhaps even outside the galaxy. They're primarily hydrogen nuclei, similar to the solar wind, but they do consist of some heavier elements as well. Any type of nucleus can be a cosmic ray nucleus. And of course, a uranium nucleus flying at nearly light speed causes a greater particle shower than a hydrogen nucleus. It makes it farther into the atmosphere or even into the lithosphere of the planet. Anyway, here's the Apatity neutron monitor, and interestingly enough, there is an uptick here at Apatity over the past 30 days. It's a tiny uptick, but an uptick nonetheless. At Barentsburg, similar tiny uptick there at Barentsburg. You may have expected it to be dropping following the lengthy coronal hole wind stream that we saw and the CME strikes, but indeed, over the past 30 days, a slight uptick in neutrons detected at Barentsburg and Apatity. Let's head much farther south to the Athens neutron monitor to show a similar tiny uptick there at Athens. So there's another uptick over the past 30 days. It's looking like consistently a worldwide uptick. Here's Mexico City, an uptick at Mexico City over the past 30 days. And let's head way back up north to Oulu, Finland. Oulu, Finland showing an uptick over the past 30 days. It's very minor, and keep in mind it's nowhere near the highs. The highs happened back around 2010, as you can see from this historic chart right here. And those are the highest levels ever seen. And most neutron monitors in the world agree that that was the highest cosmic ray flux ever seen in the world, around 2010, the solar minimum between solar cycle 23 and solar cycle 24. So there's your uptick at Oulu. How about DOMB Antarctica? It's a slight downtick at DOMB Antarctica. And at DOMC Antarctica, a slight uptick. So there you go. 6 of 7 cosmic ray monitors showing an uptick over the past 30 days. And let's get back to our Gong 2 data. But first, let's talk about station identification. Thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. I know facts are so 2019, but hey, we're just going to keep covering them anyway. And keep in mind, folks, I'm not only Smash-O-Mash, but I'm also a client. So welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. We are in the process of writing a paper to explain plausibly the mechanism underlying these solar cycles. That is, sunspot cycles and solar polar field reversal cycles. Help us out by visiting our links. You can find them on our homepage, again at smashomash.com. We built our homepage in response to pathetic censorship on Facebook. And we thank you, Facebook, for your pathetic censorship. It just caused us to get better. We're also on Twitter. If you don't have an account, follow us on Twitter. Create an account on Twitter. As we approach 300 followers, will you be our 300th follower? Wow, we're just blowing up here, almost at 300 followers, folks. Oh my God. If you want to support the channel via subscription services or see extra material not even requiring a login, such as this article here about whether masks are effective or not, head to smashomash.com/smashteam. You can click posts. If you're a gold or silver level member, you'll get additional content. Thanks to the Smash team for supporting our efforts. Smashomash.com/smashteam, similar to Patreon, just superior. We're also on Twitch regularly. Twitch.tv/smashomash is the channel. And if you want to support your own health, become a member of the American Better Health organization, otherwise known as SureMed. Links on the homepage to that. There's my personal link. You can send an email or call if you've got questions about it. There's the pricing. And it is worth a base SureMed membership just for the doctors by phone service. There are also virtual veterinarians. It is well worth the price. So check it out. Again, links below the video and on the homepage at smashomash.com to my personal SureMed link. Sign up via that and improve your own health. Today's featured product is Mensa. This is our Redbubble shop. It's got the products listed in order of best selling. And these products may or may not reflect political views. Keep in mind, folks, I am apolitical. I am only interested in things that work. And this shop includes only items that people will purchase. It's all based on markets and demand by our viewers. Again, items listed here in order of best selling. I've never been associated with a political party and likely never will. I'm only interested in things that work. Today's featured product is Mensa, which stands for Make Earth Not Suck Again, which is also not a political slogan. And yeah, check it out. I'm wearing the hat. Mensa, Make Earth Not Suck Again. Our finest days lie ahead. And if you're going through hell, keep going. That's a quote from Churchill. We say it regularly on the channel. Don't pole vault that caldera, folks. Our finest days lie ahead. And welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. It's got a link to smashomash.org on there. Go visit that site if you like. Also, it's going to redirect you to smashomash.com. And do your part. Start a conversation by picking up some merch, wearing it out in public, and telling people to make Earth not suck again. It's up to them, not bureaucracies that can't get out of their own way. And if you refuse to support the channel in any way, That's okay. Thanks for tuning into the video regardless. And thanks for leaving comments, Smasho Staff and Mama D1K. To you too. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, YouTube viewers. If you're viewing on BitChute, thanks for tuning in on BitChute as well. Support the channel via our links or don't. In any case, thanks for leaving comments, pressing like, subscribe, share, etc. And let's get into coronal holes. Here's our coronal hole line of sight plot, also from the National Sunspot Observatory's Gong 2 data. The Global Oscillation Network. And lots of South Pole-oriented coronal holes here. This one very well defined here, rotating into view. And here's a look at that in 211 angstroms. South solar polar field here sputtering a little bit. And we've got a long way to go with solar cycle 25. The north solar polar field here still largely fixated on the north polar region. South solar polar field migration a little bit ahead of time, but yeah, we are years from solar max. Let's get to sunspots. Again, we've got a new sunspot up here. That'll be known as 3088. 3085 is the largest sunspot, but 3086 has grown since yesterday. It's interesting. 3087 is a little bit less interesting. I think it's alpha class. And these groups here on the western limb are largely set at the moment. Likelihood of solar flares a little bit higher, as we've got another sunspot on the limb here. Most likely place to see major flares would be 3085 and 3086. Here's some views of those. That's the SDO continuum. And don't worry, we're going to zoom in, way in. Here's your SDO magnetogram. Mostly stable here over the past 24 hours. A little bit of growth from this one. And I got a new sunspot rising here in the northeast. Let's take a look at the southeastern limb. All of these videos are the past 24 hours. That's some minor sunspot growth there from that leading group. And here's the largest sunspot. Mostly stable here since yesterday. I think it's actually grown a little bit. Some slight growth there from that sunspot group. It is beta gamma class. Interestingly, the flaring has actually gone down a bit. And, you know, likelihood of flares is still there for sure because we've got some magnetically complex sunspots. No relativistic particles associated with any flaring. Ghost proton flux remains flatlined. Here's a great wavelength to view flares. When some happen, 131 angstroms takes 10 images per minute instead of only 2 like most of the other wavelengths. So it is a great wavelength to view solar flares. It is one of the many species of ionized iron. And once again, welcome to the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. We want our viewers to be oriented, so we show a star chart each day. If you're up before dawn, you may see Jupiter, Mars, the Moon, and Venus, all up there near the ecliptic. That's the path the sun will take across the sky, represented by the yellow line there. The blue line is the galactic plane. And let's do a solar system forecast. We've got a crescent waning moon as we approach a new moon. Let's forward this 1 week. There's where things will be in a week. We'll have a crescent waxing at that point, as Mercury joins the rest of the planets except for Venus on this more populated side of the solar system. Next, looking at coronagraphs. Here's yesterday's imagery, and no significant coronal mass ejections to report. So that's yesterday. That's 91 frames of coronagraph imagery from yesterday. Fairly uneventful there. Here's today's imagery so far. That's 30 more frames. And we'll also show the view from Stereo A to show that the coast is clear. So Stereo A is located here at Lagrange 5. Soho Lascaux C3 located here at Lagrange 1. Earth would be behind you from this perspective, and Earth would be off to your right if you were viewing from Stereo A at Lagrange point 5. No CMEs to report there. We do have a little bit of missing data from Stereo A, but the Lascaux C3 is quite up to date there. No CMEs to report. We do have a lot of filaments in the northern hemisphere. You can see these dark absorption features here. Those are similar to these bright prominences that hang off the limb. Likelihood of coronal mass ejections is still quite high. For example, if we see a large flare from this sunspot group, we may see some of these filaments eject. And here's the last about 3 hours from the GOES 16 SUVI. We've got a huge prominence down here in the southeastern limb, south of this large coronal hole. Let's zoom in on that. Great prominence down there. And that could produce a coronal mass ejection as well. So that's something to keep an eye on. And when I say ion, well, pardon the pun. Here's the last 24 hours and 171 angstroms. And let's move into our bonus features segment, the bridge between space weather and Earth weather. Our bonus features where we look at things like the ionosphere, the electron flux, and satellite charging hazards. And we've got significant ones here over Oceania. Places like Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Northern Australia. Some internal charging hazards there caused by high-energy electrons getting into satellite circuitry. Also some less significant charging hazards over places like Madagascar, southern Africa, and moving into the southern Atlantic Ocean. We've got high levels of electron flux continuing here, which we typically do see after an ongoing coronal hole high-speed stream. That coronal hole high-speed stream has now subsided, and we've got high levels of electron flux. That's your GOES 16 and GOES 17 measurements. And there is the NOAA forecast. NOAA expecting the electron storm to subside here in the coming days. I think by Friday we're going to see a bigger dip. I'm going to expect this to be down here as it was here at the last coronal hole high-speed stream strike. We'll see what happens. There's the one-year chart to put it in context. Again, quite high levels of electron flux. You may see some satellite communications breakdowns. And let's take a look at the F ionosphere layer located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. This is the vibrational frequency of that upper layer of the ionosphere. We'll let that play through. This data from Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. So that's the ionogram, vibrational frequency in megahertz. And here's the anomalygram, anomaly from the 30-day median in megahertz. So there's the latest image, 10:15 universal time ionogram, 10:15 universal time anomalygram. Things looking normal at that moment, not very anomalous from a 30-day perspective. Next, your total electron content forecast. It'll show you the most likely places for GPS errors, as when your GPS must communicate through a lot of free electrons, the signal gets hugely refracted, causing GPS errors of thousands of miles. And we've got fairly organized total electron contents here. That's the free electrons from ground level all the way up to about 12,500 miles of altitude. There's a diagram showing distances to things in miles, like the Van Allen belts, the SDO, the Van Allen probes, the International Space Station, and your GPS satellites. Continuing on, here's our latest intensitygram and our latest magnetogram. Again, new sunspot just rose, and it is an alpha class sunspot at the moment. I only see one umbra. There's the rest of your magnetogram and intensitygram. And let's bring up one more series of images here. This is Iron Star. 335, 193, and 94 angstroms. That's the data from yesterday and today so far. And that is where our space weather coverage ends, and where our meteorology segment begins. So thanks for tuning in to the Daily Space Weather, and the most detailed space weather you'll find any place on the internet, any place in the world, period. Thanks for leaving a comment, Acrylic D. And not only the most detailed space weather you'll find any place, but also the most detailed imagery of the closest star you'll find any place. And let's get to the realm of meteorology. So what we're looking at here is the DUX on nullschool.net's Earth wind map. The DUX is optical thickness of 550 nanometers. That's aerosols. It's dust, in other words. And yeah, that's your Saharan dust. Some very thick dust here off the west coast of Africa. And it's sort of good news for you hurricane chasers because, well, African dust tends to create high pressure zones, and it tamps down the likelihood of major hurricanes developing. We've got a little clearer skies over here. And let's take a look at sea surface temperatures while we're looking. And you can see the water is quite warm there in the central Atlantic. Very hot over the Gulf of Mexico. If you're wondering if it's anomalously hot, well, there's the sea surface temperature anomaly data. And it is somewhat anomalously hot. The North Atlantic, very anomalously warm. There are the rest of the world's oceans in sea surface temperature anomaly. Let's get to wind. So these are the surface winds of the eastern world. Strong low here in between New Zealand and Australia. You can see that clockwise rotation. Strong low here off the coast of Japan as well. Some very high winds there. At least 50 mile per hour winds. I think they're quite a bit higher than that actually. 80 mile per hour winds. So hurricane force winds there. A strong low here near Chad. Okay, Chad. But yeah, some activity happening there in the eastern world. Here are the jet streams. And we can even see a jet stream input there. A bit of a jet stream counterclockwise rotation happening by that low. Very concentrated hurricane force winds there. And a bit of a backward jet stream here over parts of the West Pacific and Southeast Asian continent. Here are the jet streams of the Western world, the Americas. Backward jet stream over Mexico. doubled up jet stream over other parts of, it's really a tripled up jet stream over North America. Part of it is blowing backwards. Tripled up jet stream over the southern hemisphere as well. You can see some backward jet stream here blowing east to west from Africa. Here are the surface winds of the Americas. And the reason we show the jet streams every day, folks, is it's the best way to get a quick snapshot of global scale weather patterns. That's your surface winds of the central world, and here are the jet streams. For example, you're getting some warm days right now. It's warm right now in Ireland as you're getting air from the south blowing up to the north. And there you can see that backward jet stream over the Indian Ocean and Africa and even part of the central Atlantic. Here's your weather.gov map, and we've got flooding expected in Montana, Idaho, northeastern Washington, Nevada, New Mexico, eastern California, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and even parts of Arkansas. Those are all flood watches. Some flash flood warnings there in parts of Mississippi. If your county's lit, head to weather.gov. That's the National Weather Service map. Head to weather.gov and click your county and get your weather warnings. Now we're going to bring up the total accumulated precipitation forecast here from Tropical Tidbits. Tropicaltidbits.com is where we got the data. That's the GFS model for the next 72 hours. And again, expecting quite a bit of rain there in those Gulf states. Some locations expecting over 3 inches of rain. As much as maybe 5 inches of rain in those portions of Mississippi. Again, that's your GFS 72-hour total accumulated precipitation forecast. Precipitation totals shown here in inches. Next to your NASA GOES lightning mapper. But first, pressure maps from windy.com. Low pressure dominating the part of the U.S. west of the Rockies. High pressure mostly east of the Rockies. There's a weak low here near the Minnesota-South Dakota border. And here's your lightning mapper. Arizona saw some pretty significant thunderstorms. And how about a real-time lightning map? Do we have terrestrial strikes? It looks like Louisiana's getting some lightning. Some quite active cells there northeast of Catahoula Lake. It's looking a little swampy in that portion of Louisiana. Place your gumbo recipes in our comments. Which reminds me, let's pause for station identification. Welcome to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Whew. Some strong lightning here in the northeast Mediterranean as well. Here's your radar.weather.gov Doppler radar map. Southern Alaska seeing quite a bit of precipitation there. Shout out to our viewers from all around the planet. We're going to be focusing on the lower 48 for the remainder of the video. There is your lower 48 Doppler radar map. Here is your that's not anything. There's your shortwave radiation map. It shows clouds and fog, and will also bring up water vapor, which shows all of the water vapor. So there's clouds and fog. Large band of clouds there stretching all the way from southern Texas to Newfoundland. There's the water vapor map, and we've got a high pressure zone here centered on Kansas. Clear skies over all of Kansas are kind of likely at the moment. And that's acting like a blocking feature, as this air from Canada is sent a bit to the east. Here's your recap. U.S. Doppler radar. Birmingham and Atlanta, you are in the crosshairs. Those strong storms will be there shortly. Some severe thunderstorms headed toward Houston as well. There's shortwave radiation showing clouds and fog. And there is water vapor. Thanks for tuning in to the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Don't forget to make Earth not suck again. It's up to you. And may that solar wind be at your back.